Today on the Marvel Cinematic Universe podcast, we are discussing The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, episode 4. The whole world is watching.
Dude, that name hits different now that I've seen the episode.
Oh, yeah.
Welcome to the Marvel Cinematic Universe podcast. My name is Matthew Carroll.
And I'm Jeff Randall.
Oh, and in our producer chair today, we have J. Scotty St. Clair. How are you doing, buddy?
Doing very well. Thanks again for having me back. Excited to get into this episode.
Absolutely. It's great to have you, man. Great to have you. Since it's your first real week having this out, let's up top mention your new podcast that is now available everywhere.
Yeah. Thank you very much. It's called the Animation Deliberation Podcast, so you can find it pretty much anywhere you get your podcast. Animation Deliberation. We've been covering Young Justice on HBO Max, but very excited that there's some brand new content on Amazon Prime. We just released our coverage of the first 4 episodes of Invincible, and I know there was a new episode that just dropped. So please check that out. Give us some ratings and some reviews, and send us some feedback. Really excited to have that officially launch, and excited to get your guys' feedback.
Yeah, I'm excited to give you feedback if I can ever catch up on Invincible. But yeah, everybody, please go give them some Stranded Panda love. They're the newest podcast on the network, and that's really exciting. All right, well, let's get into this. We are talking about episode 4 of Falcon and Winter Soldier right now. We're going to send Jay Scotty's going to go into his feedback cave and round up some feedback. If you're on the YouTube or the Twitch, you can send in feedback to Jay Scotty. Jeff, this episode, man.
Matt, this episode, man.
I have not left an episode feeling so... I don't even know, man. It's wild. It is wild. That last shot is iconic as hell already. Just blood on the shield. I mean, it reminds me of every amazing cover of a comic book that is so iconic. You know what I mean? It's just like, that is, and there may be that shot in a comic somewhere, but that is an amazing shot.
Yeah. Honestly, I hate to bring up a different verse from a director that I have said bad things against, but it reminds me of the pin in The Watchmen with the blood splatter across it.
Yeah, I can see that.
Smiley face pen.
I can see that.
Like, that's what that shield with the blood on it reminds me of. Like, holy crap, dude. That, like, when this episode ended, the first thing I said out loud was, well, that was definitely the end of Act 2.
Yeah.
That was certainly end of Act 2 material.
Yeah, which you posted on Facebook too, and I was like, and now my expectations are high. Thanks, Jeff.
Yeah.
Because honestly, these first 3, great. And I loved last week's episode. Last week with Zemo, I absolutely loved him as a character, and I loved the trio of them working together and like how they played off each other. It was awesome. Zemo dancing is everything. But this episode... the character development and the death of Battlestar, I mean, leading to John Walker killing a man in the street with Captain America's shield, forever sullying that shield. You know what I mean? Like, this whole show is about what happens to that symbol now, you know?
Talking specifically about the shield and people's relationship with it as an icon, I love that Carly in this episode echoed what Sam said last episode, that shield should be destroyed. Just to remove that, that imagery or that symbol of that bygone era.
Yeah. And I think it was on a previous episode. Did I say this on the podcast or no? I joked about Carly being the new Captain America before she blew up that depot last episode. I was like, I could see it. She could be the new Cap. She's like the Cap for the world, trying to avenge everybody. She's got the super soldier serum, and then she blew up a depot with innocent people inside, or at least nominally innocent. She didn't believe them to be innocent. But this episode, she clearly crosses some lines. And Battlestar's just killing Battlestar as soon as he's laying on the ground and there's that dripping substance behind him. I was like, that's gasoline or something. He's going to die. I am so worried for Battlestar. And then he got up and I was like, oh, okay, he's safe. No, he's not safe. Punched through the chest.
Into a column, breaking the column and probably his spine and head.
Yes. His heart probably stopped as soon as he was punched. A super soldier punch to the chest is not a thing you want.
Yeah, we saw what happened when Jessica Jones punches people in the chest without restraint.
Yep, exactly.
His sternum was probably liquefied. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not a great situation for him. It sucks that it wasn't John. Like, if it has to happen to somebody, I would prefer it to be John. I don't think that, that's still too far, like...
Yeah.
I didn't like Lamar. I didn't like Lamar Hoskins. I didn't want to call him Battlestar because, it's just... I don't want to indulge this sort of behavior,
See, I actually disagree with you. I think Lamar picked the wrong guy to be the wingman of, but Lamar was his conscience. And in that moment when he dies, so I really liked Lamar. I just don't, he's in the position he's in. He has the wingman he has, and he's doing everything he can. And these guys have battled together in actual war, and now they've come back. They had the discussion about sort of the moral ambiguity of war in this episode.
What they had to do in Afghanistan.
Yeah. And that all didn't push John Walker more to the mustache twirly. It really deepened his relationship with what he's doing. You know what I mean? He's doing what he thinks he needs to do, just like he had to in war. But when Lamar dies, not only is it his best friend dying, but it's also his conscience going away.
Yep.
And he loses it, man. He's pure John Walker at that moment, and he doesn't have anyone to hold him back. Lamar has so many times in the show, stopped him from doing something. You know what I mean? He's been hey, how about we not do that? Or how about
hey, voice of reason real quick.
Yeah, he's the voice of reason.
I like that somebody had that role for John. I didn't like Lamar in that he associated himself with this guy who is fake Cap, basically.
Right.
The Wish.com Cap, if you will.
Right.
And that's why I didn't like Lamar. I didn't hate him like I hated John. It was just I wasn't a fan of his. Just you hang out with the wrong people, man. I don't know that we can be friends. But he didn't deserve to get punched through the heart and exploded inside.
Definitely not.
Liquefied his internals with a super soldier punch. Nobody deserves that. Maybe John Walker, but I think that's bias talking.
Yeah, see, that's the thing. I think your bias is showing, and I think to me, it's the discussion we had about him and Cap in the first episode, new Cap, because he hadn't done anything wrong. We just hated him because of the place of the guy he was taking.
Right. We hated him because of the smug ass wink and looking like Carl from Up with a helmet on.
Right, which none of those are good reasons to hate a person. And so there was a lot of complex things we discussed. And I don't think Lamar ever did any of the things that John Walker has been proven now to be all the things we feared. It probably worse than we feared. And Lamar was not that guy. Lamar was actually a good man, and a good man trying to reason with the situation and help his friend make the right decisions. And it's awful that he's dead. But yeah, I knew it was going to happen. As soon as he fell on the floor tied up with that dripping substance, I was like, this is not good. This is not good.
Yeah, this is not great. Not great. I love the cinematography that they used in this episode. Whenever Lamar, I'll call him Battlestar. In death, a member of Project Mayhem has a superhero name.
In death, we have fake names.
Yeah. Whenever Battlestar showed up in a room heroically, it was the camera angles were always low, looking up at him, making him seem all that more heroic, and really accenting the star on his chest, in his tack vest, and then every angle of the camera, whenever character building was happening for John Walker, was always up close in his face and a little bit higher, or he would tilt his head down, and it always made him seem like he was more sinister, or slowly unraveling. It was
For
really great camera work.
Yeah. Yeah. Everything's been expressed really well, like what he's going through. And now that he's got the serum, there was some discussion in the live chat on the live watch, is like some of the people he was fighting, were they even real?
Oh yeah, is it all in his head?
Yeah, we know that he had taken the serum, and does that mess with your head? It doesn't seem to. Carly seems to still have her head on her shoulders, so I don't think it's necessarily universal. But there could be side effects that we don't know about. It's a very small sample size at this point, and it could be that it could be that John Walker just has mental problems anyway. But there's just that one scene where like he's fighting a guy in the stairwell, and the guy seems to just disappear. And there's just like a shield in the wall, and he goes and picks up the shield, and then another guy attacks him, and it's like, which of those was one of those guys fake? Was it in his head? Like, there's a really strange moment in the fight sequence. If he's actually unraveling, like, what does that mean? And like, it just does not bode well for the future of the Shield.
Yeah, for the future of the Shield specifically. Yeah.
Yeah.
In that scene where he was fighting the stealthy super soldiers, we'll say, it felt like they were really setting that up for like a horror element, and it felt really like suspenseful and tense and scary, and like I like that they did that. It didn't make me care about John Walker anymore, but like it certainly made me feel the tension in that scene.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was this was such a good episode, Matt. There's so many good things to talk about. Like, we haven't even gotten into Zemo setting up a little network of little birds.
Dude, Zemo is
Turkish Delight.
Most Zemoist this episode.
Oh yeah,
I love Zemo so much. He states his case in this episode, which even clearer than he ever stated it in Civil War, which is he's an anti-supremacist. Just anyone who thinks they're better than me, or anyone who thinks they're better than anyone else, that's a bad person. And like anyone who's fighting to have like powers above others, like in many ways, he really does fit in with the Carlys, and except Carly is willing to take the serum to stop them, and Zemo thinks that's a bridge too far. You've become a supremacist to stop the supremacism. Like it's so many layers of that issue. I really love it.
It's like we spent so long talking about the three different factions of this. The three different viewpoints of this. Of like, you've got the nationalist and borders and the icon of Captain America. You've got the man in the middle that is Sam. You've got Carly that's like tear down all borders. But then there's this secret fourth faction that we didn't know about. That's Zemo over here. Like, no, yeah, tear down the borders, but like, don't give yourself over to wanting superpowers, because like, then you're just like them, trying to be better than everybody else. Like, oh my God, Zemo, right. You're so right.
Well, there's a telling line, and this is, I think, one of the things that Sam has that neither of them have, is Carly sees the people that are stepping on her as not worth anything, and she's willing to kill the people when she blew up that depot, right? And right. She says, they were all guilty. Zemo in this episode has the line where he says, this line is so telling of his character. He says, she wants to make more super soldiers that will want to rule over real people. That line, real people. He has like this view that like those people are no longer real. Like, yes, they're trying to. So the people that are trying to step on you aren't real people. You know what I mean? And Sam sees both of them as villains. Both of them are doing bad things, but he still sees them as people. He still sees them as being able to be reasoned with. He wants to go in there and talk to Carly, even though she's a super soldier. Even though he knows that she has the mind of a human being that can be reasoned with. And I think that's like a really, really cool element to the story. And I think like Sam's a good man, and Sam really wants to make those hard decisions. I think he's equipped to make those hard decisions in ways that no one else in the story is. Yeah,
he really shows himself to be like the good moral center of the whole story.
Yep.
Like the whole thing. And honestly, like that scene, there's always that trope whenever it's like, no, I want to talk to the villain. Give me a few minutes to talk to the villain. And like, the trope is like they're starting to kind of get through, and maybe they're convincing the villain to come around, and then like something happens, and like, oh, I lost them, like you ruined it. But like this one didn't feel tropey in that way. It felt like they were making a real human connection, and
for sure.
And even though they were making that connection of like Sam talking to Carly and saying like, you know, relating, my sister is expecting the same answer that you're asking a question for, like, and the fact that he says, I agree with your fight, I just can't get on with the way you're fighting it. That's such a heavy line. And he's getting through to making the connection, but she's still just so rooted in her idea of like, this is the fight, this is the way it has to be fought. And like, yeah, they can identify with each other, but she's still very firmly on her side. And it felt like maybe they were getting ready to have a real discussion and a real talk, and then John Walker comes and ruins everything.
Yeah.
But it felt so much less tropey than anything else where they've done this sort of thing. Yeah,
I think it still very much fit into that. And I think one of the reasons it felt less tropey is everyone is doing things that make sense for their characters, you know? Yeah. I think when tropes fail, it's when tropes are tropes because they work a lot of times. And like, the reason they fail is when they want to set up a scene, so they just set up the scene and then they don't set up the characters to be the kinds of characters. The one thing that didn't work about that scene for me, and this is like the first real criticism I have of this whole show. I love this show so far. But like, how did Bucky let that happen? How did Bucky let John Walker through? Like, Bucky has no respect for him. Bucky wants to like steal the shield and just go do their own thing. Like, there's no reason a super soldier Bucky let a non-super powered John Walker get through him right there. It was really strange. They cut away from that completely because they knew it was a problem, because Bucky's like standing in the doorway. He's like, no, we can't go yet. No, we can't go yet. Well, and then it just cuts to them walking in, right? There's nothing there.
It's been 10 minutes is the thing. Like Bucky said, you know, it's not been 10 minutes, John, sit tight.
Okay.
And then John was like, don't patronize me. I'm Captain America. I've got the shield. Lucy, this A, it stands for asshat.
Yeah.
Like,
well, sorry to cut in here, but the thing I picked up on that scene too is like Lamar doesn't have any dialogue, but you can see the expression on Lamar's face. He's used to this impatience from John. So he's like, oh, we've been here before.
Right. He even says, I think he says, it's okay. Hold on, John. He has a line a few episodes ago about how you can't just punch all your problems anymore.
Yeah, right. You can't just punch your way out anymore.
Yeah.
But that's kind of what Cap does.
Well, see, that's the thing.
He morally punches.
They have a discussion this episode about the difference between heroes of the previous age and heroes this age. Carly and her like second in command. And he says the difference between those heroes is heroes now have to know they have to get their hands dirty.
Yeah, they don't have the luxury of keeping their hands clean.
Right. And I think that like they're onto something. There is something different about the heroes of Cap's day, where it's just like, it's Nazis, go fight them, beat up the Nazis. They even discussed that.
Yeah, I love that. I love that aside when he's like, when Sam says those are our friends you're talking about, he's like, the Avengers, not the Nazis.
They even discussed the Nazis in the graveyard scene when he says, you know, we're talking about his grandfather fighting the Nazis, you know?
Yep.
And it's like, that's an analog for Captain America. Captain America was this like morally pure character who's doing the right thing. And then when America starts, or like the Shield, I guess it is technically, I don't think it's technically America. I don't know. They never really get into the geopolitics of Shield, but Shield is fucking up. He leaves Shield, you know, he's like, I'm gonna do the right thing. You're making Hydra-like weapons, I'm out, kind of thing, you know? Well, that's actually a little earlier, but anyway, neither here nor there. He's trying to make the right decisions, but he's still punching his problems. And I think that, like, there is something different about a hero needed today, and they need more complexity to their thinking than even Steve Rogers had. Steve Rogers was very morally pure, but, like, Sam has this, like, very nuanced view of human beings, and he understands people deeply. And like, I think this entire show, if he ends up with the shield in the end, which I think he will, this entire show is this entire show is Steve jumping on the grenade. You know what I mean? Like, this entire show is Falcon proving himself worthy of that shield. Because really, we've always loved Sheev. We've always loved Sam. He's a...
I'm really sorry. I can't let that Sheev slip go, because in Star Wars, Palpatine is Sheev Palpatine. So
right. Sorry.
You're
didn't mean to get into Star Wars.
No worries.
You know that never leads to good things when I get into Star Wars. Just leads to hate mail.
Hate leads to Star Wars.
Sheev leads to Star Wars. Star Wars leads to hate mail.
And hate mail is the dark side. Oh God.
Okay. So
reel it in.
I think that Sam, this entire series, we always loved him. We always thought he was Cap, just slower. But now he is like, this entire show is proving his complexity and nuance and his willingness to do the right thing, and proving he's worthy of the shield in ways that we might have had a hard time accepting if they just given him the shield at the beginning of the series. You know what I mean? I thought a lot about that. Like, this is them. I don't think we've talked about this on the show, but I thought a lot about the fact that they gave this other guy the shield sort of as a foil for us to go, that guy's not worthy. We want Sam to have the shield. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, I could see us having a hard time accepting a new Captain America, except they gave us this intermediate Captain America who's clearly bad. You know what I mean?
They went too far, and it's like, okay, bring it back. Give it to Sam. Now we're happy to have Sam.
Yeah. There's not going to be pushback once you give it. When you're taking it away from John Walker and giving it to Sam, there's like no contest.
Yeah. I mean, you know, like, if it had just been handed to Sam, it would have felt like he didn't earn it.
Mm-hmm.
Especially with the amount of with the amount of screen time he's had, like,
right.
It really just feels like he wouldn't have earned it.
And it felt a little arbitrary when he chose Sam over Bucky. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
we can headcanon all day, like, oh, Bucky's more complicated and has, he's done a lot of bad things and he has a darkness, but like, that's all kind of headcanon. We haven't really seen that discussion on screen, and this show is having that little conversation that happened in Steve Rogers' head when he decided to hand over the shield. This show is showing us what Steve sees in these two people. You know what I mean? Right.
Yeah. Oh God, there was a thing.
Sorry.
Crap. There was something that Bucky said I wanted to point out, but I can't think of it now. Oh well. Must not have been important.
Sorry.
No, it's okay.
Didn't mean to interrupt.
No.
I'm sorry, Joe. I'm sorry. Think of it.
You ruined it. It's fine.
You'll think of it. It'll come back.
Yeah, but it won't be funny then.
My comic timing will be all off.
How about the beginning of this episode where Io and the White Wolf 6 years ago were sitting around a campfire, and she was saying the words to him in Russian, and he's just acting the shit out of it.
That like, was
all
such
those
an amazing
emotions.
Scene.
God, it was so powerful, Matt.
The "You Are Free" is amazing. Like, I know that they have been trying to make Bucky a thing in the series, in the movie series, since the first Avenger, but I've just never really cared about Bucky, if I'm being honest. Like, I've just been like, he's Steve's friend. He's extension of Steve.
Yeah, he's a part of Steve.
Yeah, for sure. And like, he's a part of Steve's story. He's important for those reasons. But I've never really felt emotionally invested on him getting freed, except for how it relates to Steve, because I just never felt like he was a point of view character. This series has already brought me around to that, and that scene, like, I felt real feels when she said "You are free," and he just starts weeping. Like, very rarely in a show can you let a character go full on weep, and it makes sense for the character and feels right. And it totally felt real and right. And I'm about to cry now thinking about him feeling freed of being controlled for all those years. And like, now that we know all the stuff he's dealing with his mental state now and his like amends that he's trying to make, all of that moment is the moment he finally felt free and could start that work to become the man he wants to be. And that is just great to see, and I love Bucky now. I'm really on board with Bucky now.
Right? You understand the thirst now.
I'm so thirsty. So thirsty.
Seeing him struggle and like saying to her, it's not going to work, it's not going to work, while she's saying the words, like what he's saying is the things that they've gone through is not going to work. I'm going to fall over to, to that mental programming. Mm-hmm. And watching him struggle with not wanting to lose who he is, not wanting to lose to those words, and just the fight that was going on within him. Like he was gritting his teeth and crying from how much like struggle he had in himself. And then all of that turned into relief. And when she said, "You're free," and he starts weeping from that, like, it was all of the feelings in all the right ways. Like, it was so good, man. It was so good. Anyway,
it really was. Let me flip it around and make it really sad, because something that happened in the second episode when they're at the truck and he says, it would be a lot, this whole thing would be a lot more effective if I had Cap's wingman by my side.
Yeah.
You know where both of Cap's wingmen were when John Walker was beating a man to death with the shield in the face. Like, all those cameras capturing what's going on, all they see is Captain America with Cap's shield killing a man in broad daylight with Steve Rogers' two wingmen right behind him. Like, that makes me so mad, because they were trying to stop him, but the world doesn't know that. And I have a feeling like it's going to look to the world like Falcon and Winter Soldier were there backing him up while he did this.
Yeah.
And that makes me so mad, especially after the conversation in the second episode where he's like, there's always that last line, isn't there? Because he was seeking their help for validation. And so in the same moment he showed his true nature to the world, he also received the validation that like he wanted, which makes me angry. I am angry actively about it.
You did nothing. You just sat there and watched. I mean, rough. Sitting there and watching was kind of their thing, right? Like when John Walker was fighting the Dora Milaje, and Bucky's like, "Looking strong, John. You're doing great."
How have we not talked about that scene yet? That was, I mean, so many iconic, epic character moments happen this episode that we've been focusing on that. But like the Dora Milaje were amazing. The Dora Milaje Bay. Like, I am so loving the Dora Milaje, like just completely taking out these people, and John Walker, and the character moment for John Walker, they weren't even super soldiers, and I got beat like this,
right? Like, oh yeah, it's rough. That's rough, buddy. You're a little bitch. Take the shield off.
And Zemo drinking his like whiskey is the new meme for this week. Like,
oh yeah. That's the, like, you've got the Kermit sipping tea thing.
Yeah, you've got Zemo.
That's the new Kermit sipping tea, is Zemo sipping whatever it was in his glass.
I'll get on making that meme after we get off this recording.
You've also got Bucky there acting as the peanut gallery going, "Looking strong, John. Looking strong.
Yeah. Looking good. You're doing great." And I love that Bucky walks in and he's like, "Okay, we gotta do something about this." And like he grabs the spear and like starts trying to like wrangle Io, and he's like, "Io, let's talk about this." And like, she's not a super soldier. He's got the serum, so he's just like, whatever. God, just hold still for a minute. Like,
and then she takes his arm off.
And he's like, "The fuck?"
I felt so justified. I called that so hard right before we went live to watch the episode. I was talking to Blake, and he was like, "Can you imagine if shouldn't Shuri Blake, one of our listeners, a good buddy from Stranded Panda After Dark, he said, can you imagine that Shuri made this thing and didn't put any other features in this arm? It's just an arm.
Not even a laser finger.
Right, like laser finger or whatever. And I was like, well, maybe there's some features, but I could also see them having a like fail safe in case they ever need to fight him.
Yeah.
And then they did it in this episode. And I was like, yes, I called that shit.
I love that he was able to just like put it straight back on. He was just like, oh God. And like they just needed to be off it on the ground long enough for them to deal with him. And then it goes right back on. Like,
him putting on that arm and flexing and swinging it, so powerful.
Oh. Well, he did that. That was the same thing that he did in the movie Winter Soldier. Like, when his arm got shocked by Nat's widow's bite, and like he had to pull the electrifying thing off. Like his arm had to reset, and then he did that whole swing it around his thing and like.
Good catch.
Yes. Good cocking those guns.
Good catch.
Yeah. It was a nice little callback there.
Yeah.
I said it in the live watch, but I mean, she virtually disarmed him. And it's a good opportunity to incorporate some live feedback. We do have Matthew Fox, the ethical panda, is hitting us with some feedback regarding to this whole scene, and he says, apologies for crossing streams, but the Wakandans building a failsafe into Bucky's arm so they can literally disarm him easily gave me serious Amanda Waller from DC Universe energy. She always wanted to have a plan ready for every hero in case they went bad, and the Dora and Shuri doing that show that they are preparing for what could go wrong.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, for sure. It's I feel like taking an arm off is a little different than putting like bombs in the bases of people's skulls, but like I see the vibe you're going for. I definitely see
I can see the similarity.
There. Well, let's go ahead and get bring Jay Scotty in and do some more feedback. How about that, Jay Scotty? By the way, if you're listening to this and you hear us talking and you want to be a part of the conversation, we go live every Friday morning at 9 a.m. Central on twitch.tv/strandedpandatv. You can go over there and follow us, and it should give you an alert when we go live. And you can tell Jay Scotty what you want to tell us, and we'll have that conversation right now.
Also, youtube.com/strandedpanda.
That's true. Right. We're testing with that tonight. We don't know for sure if we're doing it every week, but we're trying with the YouTube as well. It might be too much for Jay Scotty. Too much feedback from all sources.
I'm no Ashley Coffin, but I'll do my best here.
No, man.
With that said, I'll go ahead and get my resident ass kissing out of the way. You know, Ashley is a person that hasn't been present to receive some of that ass kissing, but I know she'd love it. So this feedback in particular, I feel like pertains to how she's able to do her little Monday recaps of what she thought for the episode. So Mr. Starosky is doing his little full breakdown of the episode and all the emotions that they felt. So I'm working, so I'm going to drop my stuff really quick. John Walker's a savage. Sam and Bucky are bays as F or AF. I hate that I want to both hate and like Carly. Still think Sharon is a Skrull, but most definitely convinced she's a part of Fury's sword. That Dora Milaje fight, though. Give me more Zemo, goddammit. Love you guys, 300.
Oh, man. I need all the Zemo. Zemo is now one of my favorite characters, and I just love it. I love him so much.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's all great feedback.
While we're talking about Zemo here, we did get that little nice moment with the Turkish Delight, and I had to bring this up. Haley Hobbs is asking, Turkish Delight will never not make me think of Chronicles of Narnia. Right. Anyone else?
No, yeah, and isn't it
absolutely
in Chronicles of Narnia? Isn't it sort of used in a similar way? In a way, like the child is sort of brought into the world. It's one of the first things that happens is they get the Turkish Delight and are sort of brought into the plans of the witch or whatever.
the white witch. She basically tells Edmund Pivensey that he can have anything he desires, and he goes for Turkish Delight. So.
Yeah. So that absolutely connected for me too.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Mm-hmm. So basically, the whole thing here that we're learning is that kids are easily swayed by candy.
Yes. It's such a creepy scene, but it's also so effective. My favorite line of his, I just also want to say the writing in this
All of his
episode is
lines.
tight, and like so many lines from so many characters are wonderful. But one of my favorites was, this is my associate ahead. And it's the little girl.
My associate. And I love that whole time when, like, you can tell Zemo knows he's absolutely in control of the situation, even though he's like, oh, no, I expect that it'll all come to a nice, happy resolution. Like, he is pulling every string, and John Walker is completely unraveling right around him, and he's like, my associate's right ahead, and John's like, what the hell? You're a kid. That is a child, Zemo. That is a child.
I just love it. My associate. It's so funny. It's so funny.
It's been great to get more context for Zemo.
Yeah.
Well, you brought up John Walker and kind of his baffled reaction to that whole thing. So we have obviously gotten a lot of feedback regarding to the unraveling of John Walker, but Niffer Newt comes in saying, JW, I kind of like that abbreviation. JW doesn't have the temperament, self-control, or mile high ground to wear that uniform. He totally defiled that shield. Yep. And following up right on that, Vermilion 1 says, not just the blood on the shield, but the grin on his face. And at first I thought, oh, maybe he realized he messed up, but it seemed like he was soaking up the limelight. And I definitely noticed the dichotomy of that scene. And it just shows how imbalanced he is. He simultaneously seemed horrified by what he did and the fact that he was being caught, but there was also definitely a sense of satisfaction and vindication there as well. So
yeah, I saw the satisfaction more than anything and was like, you son of a bitch.
Yeah, as he's realizing the cameras are on him, I think is really when you see him start to be like, oh, I fucked up. I fucked up. Cap's not supposed to do that.
Here comes Matt with the TikTok trend.
Good call. There is a sound for that, I think.
Well, yeah, and on that same through line, Waterfall Angel Sharon's coming in saying, it'll be interesting to see how America responds to John's actions. We haven't yet seen any actual government people, which is unlike every other Marvel thing. I think that they're going to support John and just be like, this was a terrorist flag smasher.
Oh, man.
Right.
You know, speaking of America and what America thinks, can we talk for a moment about the super heavy line that Sarah dropped in this episode? Like, she just threw it out there like it wasn't anything. And, like, I needed a moment to process what she said when she was like, America doesn't care about my story or my world. America doesn't care about my world. So why should I care about their mascot? Or why should I care about its mascot?
Yeah.
Like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so real.
Well, and that's the thing is, I think we are setting up a dichotomy here where, you know, maybe the government will support John Walker, but like, just like in this is so real world and so like, as much as Marvel has stayed away from politics for so long and like really mostly danced in the middle of things, like this is not dancing in the middle. This is politics in a way that's not even just civil rights. This is like America and its supremacy and it's like bad foreign policy. Like this is America doing a bad thing in front of the world and like it's going to divide the world. Like and these characters that are sympathetic characters talking about how they want to destroy the shield because it's a symbol of everything that like is being taken away from them and how these like sort of American supremacists and all the larger countries who are like supremacists and coming and like taking their place when they finally found welcome. And I found it really interesting the discussion they had about what this repatriation project that's happening is actually what's actually going on. And what it was is like basically they said all the rich countries in the world, when the blip happened, they needed people to help them rebuild, and they brought in all these people who are out in all these much harder to live in countries. They brought them in, like we're welcoming of all the immigrants from all over the world because they needed people. And then once they don't need them anymore, they're throwing them all out and putting them in these camps. Like that is very interesting and like not at all subtly about like America's view of immigrants and stuff. And that's, it's wild. It's wild, honestly.
I didn't think about it until this moment, but like the way that, like, we finally got clarification on who these refugees are. Mm-hmm. And, Sam said for 5 years, people were, crossing borders, being welcomed because they were happy to just have people around to help them rebuild. And then the teacher said, we're not refugees. We have nothing to take refuge from. But Carly was saying they kicked us out of our new homes because like all of the people that got brought in, they got put up in places where there were no longer people that existed to live there. But like now that they're back, it's like, okay, well, they're back. You can leave now.
Yeah. And I kind of knew all of this. But we hadn't really thought, we hadn't realized that Carly's people are people that came from struggling countries and struggling places and struggling neighborhoods, whatever, and moved up the socioeconomic ladder because there was room made for them by the blip. And now that's all over. And this is such direct response to the blip in ways that we've talked about. We really wanting them to explore the socioeconomic, cultural impact of what the blip would look like. And I love the line that Carly talks about how she's made these people have become her family, that if she had known them before, she would have been taught to hate them, Yeah. Mm-hmm. And Carly's young too. She's I don't know. She's young. I don't know how old she is.
I wouldn't put her older than 25.
Yeah. So when the blip started, she was probably just getting to adulthood, and then she's suddenly thrown into the situation, and now she's leading. Carly's a fascinating character, and the fact they've made her so sympathetic is just super complex and interesting for the show. Love it.
Yeah, there's so much nuance in all of these characters in the show. The writing in the show is stellar. The writing, I talked about the camera work earlier, the music in this show, the score in this show. Henry Jackman is a legend. When we got Bucky fighting against that one super soldier in the stairwell, the music started to go kind of that Winter Soldier route, kind of toward the Winter Soldier theme, but it was slightly different in a more, I guess, in what felt like a more heroic way. And we saw that reflected in Bucky because he jumped off the stairs and he was just kind of, it looked like he was just kind of done with it. I'm tired of having to fight these idiots. And he kicks him through the wall and he's like, stay there.
That was such a Steve line.
It was such a Steve line, but his whole facade right there was just I have to go through this crap again.
It's really weird. You watch these shows like The Boys or Invincible, where you've got characters that are they're wearing the iconography of a hero, but they're doing horrible things. You know what I mean? Yeah. And this is really strange because it's the actual iconography. He is wearing Cap's outfit almost to a T. Right. And you're watching him in that helmet do horrible things. And it's so mind bending and strange and bold for this show to go as far as it did this episode, Yeah.
Yeah.
Jay Scotty, give us two more.
Yeah. While we're on the subject of, some of the more poignant and real subject matters that this show has allowed us to tackle and discuss, I wanted to definitely hit some live YouTube feedback, and we've got Brick Something chiming in saying, and it's not just black folks' story. That's a line that can be said by many whose stories have been invisibilized, which is both sad and scary, and I appreciate Sam keeping it real.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I think you mean the line of, America doesn't care about my world, so why should I care about its mascot?
Right.
Yeah. It's such a heavy line. And there's, we talk about this being just a story of, the struggle that African Americans have faced, or Black Americans have faced in America, but they're right. Brick Something is right. Anybody who has been marginalized, any minority has likely felt that way. And
or the impoverished, or people from countries where they don't have the resources. Like Carly makes that clear, you know, that and the diversity in her crew. There are white people, there are black people, there are Asian people, and they're all banding together because they feel like they're being mistreated and thrown aside. It's definitely not just about, but connecting it to that African American experience, it brings Sam into it in an interesting way, and it makes me really wonder where Sam is going to fall at the end of this story. Because if like America is after you, or you know what I mean, like if America is after them because they side with John Walker, and if America sides with John Walker, let's say, and like they're after Falcon and Winter Soldier, like I don't see him becoming Captain America. You know what I mean? Or siding with America. Exactly. So like, where does that leave Sam? Because he is a patriot, and he is someone who's like fought for his country and wants to be there, and like and so is Bucky. And where does that leave them to? Are they going to be sort of left out in the cold? I don't know. It's just,
I don't know.
I have no idea where they're going with it. Like, how do you resolve this story in a satisfying way? And how do you make your main character make all these hard decisions? And this is him proving himself to be worthy of the shield, you know?
Have you guys seen the Netflix documentary 13th?
Yeah.
That was directed by
Ava DuVernay.
Ava DuVernay? Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Highly recommend. If you have not seen it, watch it.
Yeah, I was reminded of that when Carly was having her monologue at the funeral for God, what was
Mama
her name?
Danya.
Mama Danya. Yes, thank you. When she was at the funeral for Mama Danya, when she said they impose hardships and struggle on us, but then they label us criminals when we push back. And I was immediately reminded of 13th.
Yep.
And it's like the way that she was getting everybody together, you know, backing her banner with that, and, you know, saying we're branded as criminals when we push back, when they impose the struggle on us. But like all of it is bringing us together. Like I kind of side with Carly. Like, even though she's blowing up buildings with people who, you know, are just doing their job or whatever, or trying to live their lives day to day and not really, you know, not actively trying to hurt other people, you know, just following orders, whatever. Like,
her struggle is definitely sympathetic and is real, very much the real world. Yeah.
It's hard to say that I support someone who just bombs a building.
Right.
But like, you know, much like Sam, I agree with your fight. I just can't get on with the way you're fighting it.
Yep. And the thing that is so neat about that scene to me is she's giving a funeral for Mama Danya. And then suddenly she sees the visage, the silhouette of Falcon in the nest, as it were.
Oh, nice.
Thank you.
I like it.
And then she changes her voice. I don't know if you guys noticed this, but she's very much having this like, we're together, we're family. It's like a very low tone, but then she goes in and starts speaking, like orating in that moment when she sees Falcon. Because she puts
on the moniker.
Yeah, she's no longer just talking to her family. She's talking to Sam. She's trying to connect to his story. So I don't think it's any mistake that you heard the 13th in that, because I think that is Carly trying to connect with Sam and saying, I know you know what I'm talking about. Like, God. You know what I mean? It's really freaking good, man.
I'm getting all these tingles just thinking about that. Like, God, this show is so damn good.
It really is. Really, really is.
All right.
Last one, Jay Scotty, what you got?
Last couple things. We didn't get to spend a lot of time with Sharon, but just, you know, given the amount of speculation that was born out of last episode, I did want to pull a couple of things together here. So we got Melissa Khalil saying, also, how was Sharon able to track John Walker? I feel like this gives more validity to the rumors that Sharon is still in deep cover for the U.S. government or the power broker. And Nathaniel Muzzy also saying, so I don't know if this actually matters, but apparently there are wanted signs for Sam, Bucky, Zemo, and Sharon on the Madripoor site. So I didn't pick up on that, but I thought it was a good catch.
Oh.
Oh, wow. In the episode, there were these wanted posters?
Apparently.
Interesting.
Neat.
Oh, no. I know what you're talking about. There's a Madripoor site. You guys know this? Somebody found
the website.
Somebody found a website that's for Madripoor. And I guess they
site.
added those to that website. That's okay. Gotcha. So
okay.
It makes sense that they would be being hunted or whatever. Especially by whoever runs Madripoor.
Turns
Mosley's
out it's
confirming
Sharon.
it's Explore Madripoor website. Yeah.
Right. Well, see, this thing, if it's Sharon, why is she on a wanted poster, though? Like, the power broker doesn't necessarily run Madripoor. It sounds like whoever the power broker is runs the underground. You know what I mean? There still might be like a government or whatever.
Yeah. Well, it's lawless. From what Zemo was saying, like it was that pirate town.
Low Town is lawless. But he said High Town's a nice place to visit, but Low Town not so much.
Yeah. Well, when it was difficult to follow what Scotty was talking about when he didn't call her by her proper name, Baron Carter.
That's true. That was hard to follow. I agree. It was confusing. By the way, MuzzyNat dropped the link here. It's exploremadripoor.com. So if you go to exploremadripoor.com, there's a website. It's like the tourist board for Madripoor put it together. It's pretty great. It's, I guess, Marvel's making this website. Somebody just found it randomly, apparently.
Yeah. You know, I may need to amend her name. I think Sugar Mama Sharon rolls off the tongue a lot easier.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of Sugar Mama memes going around with her, like sitting in that nice apartment with her glass of wine.
And then we can use Baron Zemo.
Yeah,
right?
Baron Zemo. Yeah, that's what I thought you were going to say when you said Baron. I was like, I got where you're going.
Yeah. On that note, I was a little surprised by the lack of thirst comments regarding to the knife flip.
Oh yeah, yes. Yeah. We had the knife flip for the thirst crew from Bucky.
Yeah,
and I love that. Like, as much as I hate him, his line here when John Walker was like, "What's with all the knives?" Like, stop whining, John.
I love it. That was a great line. Like, John has all of the traditional, like, really great, like, funny lines and, like, cool lines in different moments, but he's just not the guy, you know?
Yeah, he's just not
the guy.
Yep.
Okay, well, I think that's about all for today's podcast. We'll be back. We normally go live on Mondays what time are we planning to go live now? Is it 6 or 5?
It's 5 or 6 Central.
Okay. I think we decided
probably
5
won't
Central.
be until like 7, actually.
What's that?
It probably won't be until like 7, actually, because there's always something that comes up.
No, but now we have the tech might be solved. It worked today. Hopefully it'll work Monday. But let me just say, we're so excited about the show. Of course, we haven't gotten into this at all, but the crowdfunding campaign, the GoFundMe for the new equipment, the new computer, it fully funded this week. Thank you guys so much for doing that. Yeah, it's absolutely amazing and very, very like I feel. You know that phrase, like, you feel humbled by something?
Yeah.
I have never felt that phrase before. And this made me feel that phrase because I did not feel worthy of such a very, very kind gift and such a supportive move from the community to give in such a big way so that I can get a computer that can keep this podcast running for the next 6 or 7 years instead of like this last one did until it bit the dust. So thank you all so much for making that happen. And I'm really going to try over the next couple weeks to finally find some time to reach out to everybody individually and thank you. I know Jeff's been sending those as well. And thank you so much.
It's overwhelming.
Yeah, it's so many.
I got behind. There was one day where I didn't send messages to everybody. And it just spilled over. Like, there's no way I can catch up at this point.
Well, that's just a testament to how many of you guys helped out. And like I think I mentioned this on a previous week, but like a bunch of you, I don't even know I had never heard your names before. I just kind of scanned through the donations, and like a lot of the names I didn't even know, which means there's just this community that has been so supportive on Patreon, and so supportive, coming to all these live events that I've gotten to know a lot of people through this community or that surrounds this podcast, and like this network. And like it's
Facebook group,
yeah, all of Twitch, that, and there's a bunch of people on the list that I'd never heard their name before, which is just like how it amazes me. There's people out there listening who I haven't even gotten to talk to, but they're still lovers of the podcast and willing to chip in, as well as some of the people who have been huge contributors in the past who gave hugely to this as well. So
yeah,
thank you all.
Yeah, and we were able to use a little bit of the excess to upgrade my machine too.
Yes,
like, it doesn't cost as much as it does for Mac because I'm a PC guy.
He only needed a few components for his machine to make them better, and a few people actually went above and beyond and went over the amount, and enough that we were able to afford that for now, and that's freaking great.
And so now my machine actually can serve as a backup.
Yes. In the past, when we've had to jump over to Jeff's machine during a live stream, it did not work. Which was a few weeks ago when mine crashed. We tried to move to Jeff's. It did not work. The recording came back and it like was skipping words. Like you were just like, so it couldn't do the live stream and record at the same time, which is why this requires a hefty computer.
So what you guys are saying is there's no excuses now, right? It's all got to be perfect from here forward.
That's what we're trying. We're trying for. All right.
I'm totally kidding, man. You guys both deserve it so much. We love you. You guys have contributed and built an awesome community. So it's just a testament to what you've built that everybody responded like that and supported you. You guys deserve it. So
thanks.
I'm
Jason.
so happy to see it.
That's incredibly kind of you to say. Don't feel like it, but I very much appreciate all of you guys.
What is it? Get your lips off my ass, Jay Scotty.
And with that, we're going to wrap it up. Oh, Jay Scotty, throw out any plug you have. I think you do have a plug. I know we did it at the beginning, but do it again.
Yeah, just one more time. If you didn't hear it at the top of the episode, please check out Animation Deliberation. You can find it on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, wherever you find your podcast. We are a action, animation, and cartoon podcast. Our tagline is that we take action, animation, and cartoons seriously, but not too seriously. So very exciting time to be a fan of action animation. We've got Invincible on Amazon Prime, which is just incredible. So please check it out, give us some feedback, and
I think you guys are also, you guys are doing like a crossover with Star Wars guys for Bad Batch, right? I heard that.
Yes.
What's going on?
Yes.
So in a few months when
we'll be teaming up with
a month when Bad Batch comes out, you guys are teaming up
less than a month.
Wow.
Yeah, so just around the corner.
That's some like cool animation. And animation something we've never covered in the network, so it's cool to have have a team, you guys working on that. So freaking awesome. Thanks, Jay Scotty, for being here. Thanks for producing. Jeff, always a pleasure, my friend.
Absolutely, sir.
And we'll be back soon, Monday, with some feedback. Feel free to send in your feedback however you like, and join us on the live stream on Monday. Peace.
Later.
Until next time, true believers.
Thank you for joining us for the Marvel Cinematic Universe podcast. Available everywhere you get podcasts, and now a video version streaming live on twitch.tv/strandedpandatv and available at youtube.com/strandedpanda. And if you'd like to learn more about all of our other podcasts, geeky projects, and ways to support the network, visit strandedpanda.com.